All right.
So,
Little bit different, eh?
are you looking to get pissed this morning, you feminists? Because we're going to do it.
And we're going to jump right into this because he and I are having an amazing conversation. I don't want to ruin the magic. So just to paint the picture, we're talking about postpartum depression. But it's a bigger construct. And he and I both feel like, okay, was this always the case or not? And one of the things that I was saying, Mass, I'm going to talk directly to you and let's flow back into this. So, like,
this is great.
This was great because you and I were talking about, I mean, Melissa just had a kid, although this is our fourth child, so we're a little bit more down the road.
Yeah, but I can remember when Isaac was first born.
Dude.
And she had a struggle.
Yes.
Carrie kind of had a struggle a little bit, but she didn't deal with the postpartum depression. Right? She didn't really deal with that. We were talking with a friend this morning, both you and I.
Yep.
Same mess. Same. He's like, my wife's kind of going through this a little bit. It's not, just trying to comfort her and console her. I'm like, you're doing the right thing. Don't try to fix it. Just try to listen and, pray for her. Be stable, right? Be as stable as best you can. All that stuff. And he, I kind of hit the angle of she's learned to deal with stresses in her life. And now that you've provided some kind of stability for her where she doesn't have to go to work, she can have the child. What does she do? Right. And I think you could see, and this is where you and I started bouncing off this topic, is like, where did postpartum depression really begin? And I asked Mike this question. You guys can comment. Clearly, I could be wrong about this. But do you think it was when we told women, you don't need to be trad women anymore. You guys need to be modern women, women of career. So your whole life, women has been drawn to push for a career, sports, whatever it is. Do your thing. I'm not saying this is even wrong, right? But we've created the woman where they don't do traditional things anymore. They don't do traditional like house cleaning, cooking. I'm not saying every woman. Just go with me, the thought here, right? So they don't do these things. And then all of a sudden we say, go have kids. They're like excited to have a kid. Now they got to do trad things as modern women. And they're like, I don't know what. I'm so used to working and chaos and everything was set up for me and everything was regimented. Now I have a kid that wakes up every 2 hours and sometimes doesn't want to eat. Sometimes your mind goes berserk and you're like depressed. Because you don't know what to do.
I think, and let's take that whole situation that you were talking about, that stress factor, right? And I think stress factor is like you're having to deal with the situation, so you're trying to be in control. Right. You're trying to handle things. And you had mentioned the stress factor. I had mentioned to our friend career factor.
Yes.
Because his wife was brought up, like, you need a career, you got to go through this, you have to be professional, blah, blah, blah. So she had the mindset of like, I have to be a professional. I have to do a career.
And equally, your wife was a career woman.
Yes.
She was a head nurse in Wisconsin.
Yep.
Like all those things. She was in the career, bro.
Like, and she was doing really well. And it's kind of funny because she and I had a conversation the other day about this. And she, for the first time, actually voiced like, I wouldn't mind going back at some point. I don't know that she would want to go back to doing the same thing she was, because she was oncology, so like high death, high stress.
She would be a great doula. She'd be a great home birth person.
I think she would be great for birthing process.
Because she understands women, loves women. She loves like the process, and she nurtures people. She'd be great at that.
Yeah, I'm with you. So like, I think when a woman has a child,
right?
And granted, I hear all the voices like, "How can two men talk about?" Because we're married.
Because we're married to them.
Yeah, exactly. We've watched this.
Yes, totally.
So, I think a woman gets into that crossroads where it's, I have a child, and especially for certain situations, I don't have to go back to work. I'm being provided for. Where do I go from here? And is that okay?
Right. And so this is where the topic gets a little hairy. And again, I don't have notes for this. I'm just spitballing theory. And
this came up like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, we want you to spitball with us. And I love these kind of topics because it gets us to think not the normal way.
Right.
So instead of calling out postpartum, for me, this is what I've always seen in the medical field. Instead of calling it what it is, hey, we've done this the opposite way for the last 50 years. But over the last 150 years prior to that, this was a norm. This was kind of like Women have roles, men have roles. This is what we do biblically. That's kind of how it works. And I know I already hear the liberals going, he wants them back in the kitchen barefoot and pregnant. That is not what I'm saying. That's not how women should be treated. Read Proverbs 31 and read Ephesians 5. Okay.
Which, yes, and not to interrupt, but I really want us to get into Proverbs 31 at some point on this whole topic.
Let's do it.
Go ahead, finish your point.
So we've done this for so long, and then we said, well, women are just like men. And this narrative caught. And they're equal in God's eyes. Totally. There's things that men can do that physically you can't in some things and some things. But you guys are just, if not smarter in a lot of ways than men are. We take things so simply. You guys are very thought processed and that kind of thing, especially my wife. She sees things so much deeper than I do sometimes. So definitely there are roles you can play, jobs you can do. But I think what happened was we said, you're equal like them, so go get a career. You don't need a man. So then you find a man. You find the guy of your dreams, and he's like, yes. And you're like, yes. And then he's like, I want children someday. And you're like, you know what? I want your little babies too. Right? But your whole life, you've been working towards a career. So you've learned to develop your life, your stresses. You learn how to handle problems, situations, all around this thing called a career, right? Then for not doing the housework that's necessary, both of you, both men and women, because there's housework that I do too. As a husband, okay? I'm not saying it's just relegated to the wife, but typically women stayed home to take care of the children while men go out and provide it. That's Ephesians. That's all biblical stuff, okay? Then we say, let's go have some children. There's no preparation to get into a child. You can read every book. You can go on every WebMD website. You can Google everything. No one child is the same. And then what happens? You start to overthink things because you've never had this process of traditionalism. You've never had this like, oh, this is what children do. The moment they burp or spit up, you're like, oh my God, there's something wrong with my child. He's sick. No, babies spit up. That's what they do. You know what I mean? Or the dishes are piling up. Oh, I'm not being a good wife. Says who? Says who? That's life. And you don't know, and both men and women don't know how to handle this because we've lost the art of traditionalism. We've lost the art of how to take care of a family. Does that make sense? And depression sets in.
It doesn't get passed down either. So especially in America, a lot of times in the Western culture, you move away from your parents as soon as you can, right? So no longer are you in a village and there's 2, 3, 4 generations in that same village to be able to pass stuff on. So you're really on your own. And it's funny you're bringing up that like individualized parenting because I was talking to my friends this morning about that as well at breakfast. But one of the things we were talking about, different friend, all kinds of friends.
It's cool.
We're just very popular guys.
Hey, man. Want to join in?
Become our friend, please. So one of the things that I was talking about at breakfast with some friends, and this relates back, follow me on this story because Mass and I were riffing off this. I love breaking things down to the tribal dynamic, right?
Because it is that basic.
Yes.
It's that basic.
It so is. It's humanity at its most basic form. And like I said to you, like we live in a modern illusion, and I'll prove that in a second. So in the tribal setting, the man goes out, hunts, gathers, puts his life at risk, environment, predators, all of that, right?
Gosh.
Right?
I'm just seeing this through as you're talking. Like, you're right. Even at breaking the box of 9 to 5, you're going out hunting, killing.
That's why
literally is what it is.
That's why men use that type of language when we're talking about like sales or that kind of like, I like the hunt. I like the chase, I'm trying to close the deal. Why? To gather resources to bring back, right?
Wow.
So when we go out, in the tribe, we're all in a tribe. The men go out in the hunting party. They gather the resources. They bring them back. They put their life on the line for their family and to feed the tribe.
Right.
So what does the wife do in a show of honor and respect and love for her husband, her family, all of that? She takes the food and makes a beautiful, savory meal out of it to hand back to her husband.
Yeah, caveat on question with that. Think about this. Do y'all remember what it was like when you were kids and your mom cooked? Some of you maybe who didn't have a mom, maybe you had someone who cared for you who cooked. You could never replicate that recipe even if they put it on a card because it was made with something different. I was telling Mike this morning, the way my mama made tortillas and stuff, buddy, I tried to do her recipe. The only one that's nailed it is my sister. My sister nailed this recipe because she does it. My sister loves to cook. She loves to provide. There's something about love. I'll even say this. We used to love Kool-Aid growing up because it was all we could afford. The way my mom made Kool-Aid tasted better than what I ever could. Who can relate? Put it down in the notes. Put it down in the comments. Comment with me here. There's something about how mom made things with love. And my wife really has taken this on about even down to the littlest things. Do you want this? And she'll sit me down and she'll cook the meal and she'll say, hey, I want you to do this. And my wife works her butt off. She does. But she also recognizes I can put this away right now. I need to make sure my kids are taken care of. I still tell her, they're 16, 14, and 11. These guys can do it for their own. They can do it. You know what? You know what she tells me? How long do I have before they leave and I can't do this for them anymore? She wants to do this for them. She wants to make sure they're fed and okay. She texted me when we were out of town just recently, make sure he eats these certain foods, Nathan, because he'll eat whatever he wants and he can't do that because he'll get affected in his stomach. And I'm like, I already did it. And she's like, oh, you're such a great husband. And she meant that. There's love there.
Exactly. And
love is what we're talking about.
And do you notice there's a fulfillment of a role there?
Right. So back to your point, because I want you to go back to this. What you're saying is there was this element of tribalism, but back in the day, this was normal. We knew that's what husbands did. We knew this is what wives did. There was no question. There was no, he's trying to usurp his authority. No. It's just you operate well there, and I operate well here. And I don't have to think about it. You know what I mean?
Right. And it's not like these roles are so rigid that the guy can't barbecue or cook or whatever, and the lady can't go shoot a buck or whatever. But the general consensus, the general modus operandi is this. I just love the example of food, and you're so right. Like that concept of love, we think, oh, that doesn't count. Oh, dude, it does. It does. And you want to know how I know we're living in an illusion, and I think this gets back to like when you lose your role, that's when depression starts really happening. Notice all of our food today, all of those ingredients are shoved in there to make it taste what? Good.
That's right.
Make it taste wonderful.
Right.
So now instead of me handing the food to my wife or the resources to make the meal, well, we can go get a family lasagna from Walmart and shove that in the oven for an hour, and guess what? It tastes great.
Bruh.
Right?
Just to add to it, I remember mom making rice, beans, everything she made, whatever she made, she never measured.
Dude.
She just knew. And if it didn't taste good, she would add more. It was all done out of specificity. She knew it's like, this is what tastes good. This is what I'm bringing to the table. And none of us ever complain. But I'll say this, man. You get Mexican rice from my mother, Mexican rice in a box. I'm telling you, bro, there's something different. Like, I can taste tortillas when I go to a restaurant. When I used to eat flour tortillas, I don't do that anymore. But the taste, the smell is different. I don't like it. It just doesn't taste like a tortilla to me. And it's like mom made things with love. My wife makes things with love. And now we're going to the, like you just said, we can get rice in a box in 60 seconds. Or a Hamburger Helper, and which no diss on Hamburger Helper.
Dude, tastes great.
Got us through some hard times as kids. You know what I mean?
Same here. It's one of my favorite meals.
Right. And mom made her own version of that too. When she got the boxes, you know, she made her own Hamburger Helper. What we're saying is, there's this element that's missing when man would go do that stuff and bring back home the spoils, if you will. Mm-hmm. There was this. She wanted to, in response, love by offering him a cooked meal. And so like the man was like proud. He could say, man, my wife is, and then when we'd invite people over for dinner, it was like, man, my wife made that. And we used to, man, ma'am, that was such a great meal. Thank you so much there was like this camaraderie that was built, right? Whereas now it's like, yeah, just go over there. We don't even talk about the food anymore. You know, it's like, and I know that sounds trivial. But I'm trying to talk about, or both of us are trying to talk about what leads to these depressions. And it's this missing element we had as kids. We don't have it anymore from what we had as kids. You understand?
It's that loss of role, that loss of fitting in with purpose.
Totally.
And we watched our modern culture try to decimate roles, purpose, drives, and say, no, women, you need to have a career. You need to do it on your own. You need to be self-sufficient. Men, you need to sit down. You can't be in charge of this. You can't do this. Like, that's not what a man does. And we watch the culture get completely flipped upside down, and you don't see it getting passed down to the next generation like it used
100%.
to. Like, I voiced this morning, I voiced to you, I voiced on the podcast several times, like, I love Little House on the Prairie because of the imagery of it, where Pa goes out with his own two hands, hunts, farms, builds the house, puts things together, trades in the city, blah, 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 brings back the ingredients that Ma is MacGyver with food. Did a little bit of flour, a little bit of sugar.
Yeah, it's in the
eggs.
books. Yeah. It's all they had.
She makes this meal for Pa to come home to that they're all like, this is amazing. Guess what? The girls are right there with Ma the whole time, learning how she does it and what she does and how she crafts this.
Right.
So they learn those skills.
And they wanted to please their Pa. That's the whole thing, right? So like, and Paul wanted to please his wife. If you read any of those stories,
sacrifice and protect.
He was worried, like, a lot of the times, like, I feel like a failure. There wasn't a time where Paul Ingalls wasn't, like, not a failure. He felt like a failure, right? Bumper crops, hailstorms, snowstorms. Like, how are you going to do all this? You drag your family halfway across from Illinois, I think it was, or something like that. They go north.
Wisconsin,
I think it was Wisconsin, and then all of a sudden they went to Dakotas. And then Can you imagine? Like, we didn't hit it here. We got to go move. We didn't hit it here. We got to move. You know, it's like, you feel like, I'm not providing for my family. You know what I mean? He's going through his own.
And all of you need to read these books. I'm telling you. Like if you're a guy and you're like, I don't know, this kind of kid and girly, like, no, you need to read it because I love watching Pa. Pa is like the cream of the crop when you talk about a true man, right? There's one point where there's no work, there's no harvest, but there's a harvest that's like, I don't know, 50, 60, 100 miles away. The guy walks with one of his boots with holes in it, walks through cold weather, winter by himself to go do the harvest, stay there for a couple of months to help out with the harvest, and then come back for his family.
Dude, like, you know, so one of this last podcast we did on Caitlin Clark, it was very popular. Like, it got some hits. And I want y'all to think with me for a minute. The Bible says in Ephesians that husbands, God presents his body blameless before all, so we should do the same thing. We need to present our wives blameless before all, right? Just as Christ would do for us. Women are now representing themselves, and they're having a hard time figuring out what's the best. And I said this, and men have this problem too, but I said this, it's never going to be enough what Caitlin Clark is doing.
Nope.
Because she's trying to take on, and I'll tie this in, okay? She's trying to take on, I have white privilege, according to her, and I need to help elevate black voices. You know exactly what happened right after that? Oh, now she's trying to play this white savior complex. Now she's trying to say, but they're pissed because she didn't say anything about the blacks and like all this, but she did. And it reminded me that in these roles, what we're trying to do with women is you need to buck up and be a man. And it's like, no, I'm supposed to make sure my wife is blameless. My wife should never have to try to defend herself. Even if she does things that are unbecoming or she has bad times, I should never be going to my friends and saying my wife is a B word right now or whatever. You should never have to do that. You should say, no, my wife is the best, dude. Like, I'm presenting her faultless before my buddies. I'm presenting her faultless before God. And it's so crazy how men today go, oh, talk to the old battle axe. We've literally taught men that women aren't even women anymore. That's just what she wants to do. That's what she does. You've abdicated your role in being a traditional man. They've abdicated their roles as traditional women. And you wonder why there's so much discord.
And it's starting in the next generation, too, because what are they talking about? All the guys are like, there's no good women left. They're all just hoes on Instagram and all of that. And meanwhile...
Body counts.
Yeah, and they're watching stuff like whatever podcast, and they're going, well, that's how all women are.
It's totally true.
There's just no good women anymore, so I'm just going to do my own thing. Well, guess what the guys are ending up doing as their own thing? They're following after a type like Andrew Tate. Money, cars, women as objects, focused on self-preservation, self-gratification. Now, he talks about brotherhood and all that, but at the end of the day, it's not giving of yourself to others.
That's exactly
in terms of your especially your relationship. It's taking care of self, and others will get some benefit.
In other words, yours is not a role of giving back. Yours is hierarchy. People will admire and look at me. I'm up here on the pinnacle, and you need to be like me.
That's what it is.
I'm the top 2% of the world, and all these other things.
Why does he name himself Top G?
That's right,
dude. You just nailed it. You nailed it.
Right. So it's this top G mentality, and in Christ, you're supposed to lay yourself down for your brothers. This isn't about you. That real history books will show what you've done for others. Your story is written in the hearts of others. Like, I don't need epitaphs when I die. I don't need biographies written about me. And if it ever happens, that's fantastic. But you know who will write an epitaph about me? The kids that we disciple now will tell their future kids about what we did and how we helped and how we did. That's writing a book of remembrance about those who fear the Lord, right? So let's kind of go back to this trad woman thing, Proverbs 31.
Thank you.
So let's talk about this, because, and I know I kind of went down some channels, and if you guys have not seen the last podcast, you need to go watch it.
You should go watch it.
It was good because, like, we really brought out some things that are happening, and I don't even care anymore. The fact that these ladies are acting like men frustrates me. Yeah. And we've allowed this to happen in society, that there's no such thing as gender roles. Dude, that is you're already creating confusion where confusion didn't need to happen. That these women, it's so crazy that these women are against each other now, acting like men. And they're saying we're doing so much for women. Dude, you're losing. Did you know that the NBA's viewership is down 48%?
Is it really?
The NBA now. It's like 45 or 48%. Because these people are crazy. They're crazy what they're promoting. Who wants to watch this stuff anymore?
And
it's not even sports, it's activism.
Yes, and you watch a bunch of bickering, immaturity, and the women are following in the footsteps of the men. Totally. Going, we got to be more immature. We got to be more of a soap opera. It's going to crash and collapse
100%.
Because people are so tired of drama, and now all their sports is drama.
It is.
Anyways, Proverbs 31.
Yeah, let's do it. So verse 10, let's just talk about this. And I want you to know, before I even start this, did you know that there's no chapter about men this way?
Right.
That describes a man?
There's like little bits and pieces here and there of like what a good righteous man is, but there's nothing that's like
here's what a woman should be. Here it is. Proverbs 31 verse 10. An excellent wife who can find? For her worth is far above jewels. Does that sound like a doormat to you?
It's very patriarchal of you.
The heart of her husband trusts in her.
Trusts.
Not lords over her. Trusts. And he will have no lack of gain. Oof da may. You know those women that are like, I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to go do this. And we don't have the money for it, so we put it on credit cards. And I've been guilty of it. Like, our family's been guilty of it. Verse 12. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. This is a Proverbs 31 woman. She looks for wool and flax and works with her hands in delight. She's happy to do these works. She's happy to do them, right? She's like merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She rises also while it is still night and gives food to her household and portions to her maidens, those who are helping her.
She takes care of the entire household, whether it's kids, husband, or servants.
Servants, right? Yep, totally. She considers, listen to this, women. She considers a field and buys it. She's buying fields. From her earnings, she plants a vineyard. Okay, vineyards grow clusters of grapes to make wine. To do what? Make people happy. It's medicine for some. What she produces is for other people to enjoy and be happy at feasts and at weddings. And she's producing these things. Isn't that crazy?
I have something awesome, but I want you to get through it first.
She girds herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She senses that her gain is good. Her lamp does not go out at night. Wow. She stretches out her hands to the distaff, and her hands grasp the spindle.
She works.
She's making clothes. That's what she's doing. She extends her hand to the poor, dog, and stretches out her hands to the needy. She's not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She makes coverings for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Does that sound like a doormat, a submissive woman who can't have? This sounds like a woman who's a career and who's prospering to me. And back then, fine linen and purple was royalty.
Yeah.
Royalty. Her husband is known in the gates. Her husband is known in the gates. Listen, when he sits among the elders of the land, so that means he has a good name.
He's respected and revered as a
Right.
good, influential man.
Look at this. Women, do you elevate your man and put him on that pedestal? I'm so proud of my husband. He's well known in the gates. You know what I mean? She makes linen garments and sells them, buying fields, planting vineyards, making clothes, and selling them while making food. And all. This woman's a boss, right? Strength and dignity are her clothing. She smiles at the future. That'll preach. She smiles at the future. She's not afraid of having children. She smiles at it. She opens her mouth in wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. Kindness, right? She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise. Yeah, I know.
Ooh.
I know, dude. Her children rise up and bless her. Her husband also, and he praises her, saying, many daughters have done nobly, but you excel them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her the product of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates.
Mic check, right?
Man, that's.
Now, take all of that. Take all of that. That is the bride of Christ.
100%.
Right? That's the bride of Christ. It gets better. Imagine the bride of Christ taking the talents that have been given to her and going out and using those talents. Right? The parable of the talents. This is what hit me when we were talking about Proverbs 31 and you were reading it. It was like, my gosh, she's given talents, right? So not her husband, if he's an influential man, he sits in the gates, that kind of, he knows how to do business because the gate was where business was done as well, right? I've got this piece of property I want to sell you. Okay, I'll buy it, blah, blah, blah. Business was done as well as governmental affairs. So he's a good businessman. He's bringing home money. What is she doing with it? She's a steward of it to buy the fine linens, to buy the fields, and then plant a vineyard, to sew clothing for her family, to give clothing
crazy.
out, right? She is a steward of the talents that have been provided to her by her husband, and she goes out and invests those in the world. Meanwhile, she takes care of the poor. She raises her children. She's has a kind word. She gives wisdom. She's not hateful, spiteful. She doesn't sit idle.
Oh, man. That one, y'all, this is just me. I deleted all the social media apps from my phone. I've done it. I've done it before, but you just get so caught up in idleness, man. And I wasn't always doing that, but it's just like that distraction, that nag on you. I just don't want it no more. And it's hard because like our ministry revolves around social media because that's what we do, and I know yours does too. But it's like, you know what? If it can't wait till I get to the office or open up my laptop.
Is it necessary? Right.
So you think about women, right? Like if it's going to take away their peace, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Is it worth? And very few women that I know, there's a couple who are super businesswomen who actually care and have wisdom and do the poor stuff. But a lot of the times there's discord in their minds. They don't know how to handle certain situations. And you could say, well, it's just because they don't know how. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem.
And I would argue the stats bear it out that there are differences in roles and ways of production.
Right.
Because you notice the Proverbs 31 woman, she's still very productive.
100%.
It just doesn't look like the productivity of her husband. And that's okay. Man, you see these women who they have like a small home business. They make soap or they make candles or they sew things and sell it on. I know somebody who she was making, and you know her too, but she was making Christmas tree blankets or whatever. They're like $100 a piece. And I reached out because I was like, I want to support. I want one. She's like, I'm sorry, I sold out. It was like, yes, don't apologize to me. That's awesome. You sold out. Like, she was productive with materials that she had, and she did something. Now, granted, it was from the home. It wasn't this, Fortune 500 company. But
it was something.
It was something, and it was productive. And we're so afraid of the traditional roles,
dude,
that we're sending ourselves into depression and anxiety and idleness and unproductivity because we're trying to run away from these traditional roles, these value systems that have been validated over thousands of years.
100%. This is nothing new, right? I just want you guys to see this, though. It just kind of hit me as a parallel. Men plant fields for food. We hunt food for food, right? We hunt animals for food. Women plant vineyards for wine, for joy. We produce for necessity.
Dude.
They provide the joy and the love and the encouragement, as we should too. Like, that's why it said, many daughters have done well, but you excel them all, babe. You are amazing. And I'm talking to you, honey. But like, you've excelled them all to me. You've excelled every expectation I've ever thought a woman could be, a wife could be, right? And I've just always done that. Like, I know she's the best that I've ever seen. You can say the same about your wife. She's far excelled.
Perfect for me.
Price far above rubies, does everything that her hand puts to. Does she get tired? Does Carrie get tired? Oh my gosh. And we have to understand and acknowledge that and say, we need to help them because they're tired, man. Life is crazy. But I'm realizing more and more, guys, if it's taking away the peace of God from my heart, I don't want to do it anymore. If it can't wait, because, dude, what did we do 25 years ago before we had this stuff? They waited till tomorrow. If you need me, listen to me, church, people, anyone. If you guys can't wait till the next day, I doubt I'm just saying this. I'm going to be honest with you. I doubt it's the Lord. Because why do you need to do it now? Only the Holy Spirit can tell me that kind of stuff. Now, get up, right? But you need to demand of me, and I need to have an answer at 10 o'clock at night. Man, get out of here. I don't need that. I'm not saying our church does it. I'm saying just think about your life. Think about your work. Think about your ministry. Think about all these things. It's like, man, if I don't do this post, I'm not going to get the algorithm. Then is it the Lord?
Right.
Was that what your stress is? I'm not saying if you have a grace on it, you shouldn't do it. God will have you do social media and all that stuff. That's fine. But like, man, if I don't invest this, it won't happen. It's like, if I don't, I won't. I'm like, well, I never have to say that when it's driven by the Lord.
I think a lot about the West, modern American culture, all of that, and the rates of mental illness, depression, anxiety, all that. Now, I'm sure the food has a lot to do with it. I'm sure the entertainment we consume has a lot to do with it. The medications we take in. Sure, all of that, I believe. But I think part of it is we've created such a comfortable society for ourselves, such opulence,
man.
that we've hit the stage of insanity. Because you look at like very rich, spoiled kids that grew up just in the lap of luxury. It is so rare that they are normal.
Truth.
And they are well grounded, right?
Truth, man.
Typically, every little piece of drama or conflict becomes a massive deal because they have to create it in their life for
100%.
something to focus on, right? Then you look at dude, I'll never forget when you and I would talk about the kids in Guatemala when you would go to the orphanage. You would talk about like, dude, they're walking around with smiles on their face. Like, they may not have shoes, but dude, they're happy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we could learn a thing or two from these cultures that. Now, I get it, sickness and starvation and all that, very sad, tragic things, but so many cultures are living in so much less, yet they seem to be so much more satisfied with themselves.
And dude, when they rest, they're comfortable doing nothing. We're not.
No, we're doing something
to do
wrong.
something. We have to do something. And these folks, it's like, are they any less saved because they can rest with their families at home after they're done with a hard day work and just chill?
Right.
That they don't have the phone to distract them anymore and they don't have all these things pressing on them. Like, that's just junk to me. That's bull junk. Because I don't understand why it is I have to fill in the blanks for God. I'm called to do his will. And if my hand is in his will, and I actually said this in the sermon yesterday, I think the biggest problem we have in our society as a nation, as a Christian, is, Lord, we want you in our plans, Father, we want you to direct our plans. And it's like, when's the last time you asked him for his? I want to be caught up in what you're doing. My plans are junk. My plans are like, we literally want God as a piece of my plan instead of me give me your plan. That's all I want to do is your will. And if that means all I'm doing is this, then that's all I'm doing right now until you move me on to something else.
I just got an image of when Abraham makes the covenant with God and he's supposed to walk between the split bull or ox or whatever it is. And God causes him to fall asleep. Now, we typically take that as like, so God's going to do it all. You can't be a part of it at all. You can do nothing of your own. And I know you and I have talked a lot about my struggles with that concept. Because I got to have my hand in it. Like, why would he put it in me to work and create and produce if then he's like, but you can't use any of it? No, that's crap. But notice what God did do was like, just sit down. Because I imagine this little kid, right? Like, we're going to go to, I got to pick some place that's not fraught with politics. Six Flags, right? I don't know. There's somebody, no, do you know how satanic they are? Just run with the analogy.
Never enough.
Never enough. I was going to say Legoland, but I know they have some like gay little Lego couple in it, so we have to swear them off. And well, Universal, they had a trans person in something 30 years ago, and so you can't ride the roller coaster.
Don't even bring up Disney, bro.
Disney's like, Walt Disney was like satanic Freemason, and right now he was 33rd Order. Anyways, so everybody's like, what was Mike talking about?
What's going on here?
So let's say your dad's going to take you to Six Flags and you're like 7 years old and you're just like running around him, super excited. He's like, yeah, you can keep running, but it's not going to get us there any faster. I have to drive the car to get you there, right? And I think sometimes we do that with God, and I think God probably put Abraham to sleep, just lay down.
Stop it, dude.
Just stop. I'll do it.
What are you doing?
Let me cross through this. Lay down. Rest a little bit.
Totally.
Like, because we do that to God. We're like, okay, it's God's vision. So now I've got to work 17 hours and not eat for a week. And I've got to do all this. And I have to start cutting myself. It's like, or God saying, no, this is what I'm going to do. You need to spend a time of rest with your family, which is your situation exactly.
It is 100%. You know, the only mandate God ever gave us was to preach the gospel to every creature. You know, having business and all this stuff, I'm not talking about that. That's what he's called us to do. Business then takes over. And then we ask doors for, Lord, give me doors of favor and all that stuff so I can sell my product and all these other things. Ministry was never meant to be a business, I don't believe. And there's elements of business, yes, because we need money to make it go. But I think we've almost treated it as such, where it's like this whole thing is, if I don't meet the right person and if I don't connect with this person, then I'm not successful. And it's like, that is just junk to me. Because success is measured so different by so many people. And I'm realizing more and more that all 5 gifts are different for a reason. I'll see things differently than other people will. Mm-hmm. I'm not like everybody else. And I'm glad for that. And our ministry is different than everybody else's. I never feel like we're adequate in this ministry. And you know that. By the way, our book's live now on Amazon if you want to go get it.
Speaking of inadequacy.
Speaking of inadequacy, you're going to get bored with a book that I just wrote and Mike wrote and Carrie wrote, and it's awesome. But it really is. It went live, and all of you who pre-ordered, you'll get your copy soon. So thank you for that. You guys can go online. It's on Amazon. We'll provide the link below. It just went live, so I'm really excited about it. But I'm also like nervous about it. It's like people have written better works than I have. You know, like I feel like so inadequate. This book is going to flop, and I don't know if I want, you know what I mean? Like, why did I do this? And, but I realized like, hey, I'm not called to do that. I'm called to do what he told me to do. I wrote a book. A lot of people were asking me to write a book. I get it all the time when I go out and speak, to write a book about these things. Well, a lot of what I talk about is in this book, right? It's very simple. It's very basic. It doesn't have to be hard. We complicate the crap out of it, the nuances, and, they didn't really talk about God. So the government was atheist. That's crap. The God was overarching all this. People mess it up. That's tribalism. We mess everything up that God designed.
Yeah, go figure.
That's why we talked about this whole thing, women and men. That's why we're doing this. Be careful, because this postpartum stuff and all this other stuff, I just think it's a symptom. It's a causality of us losing the traditional way of doing things, the way God intended it to be.
I agree.
And if you are dealing with that kind of stuff, There's obviously you have friends in church and all those other things in prayer, but really it's just ask the Lord, like, Lord, then help me find purpose in my family. Help me find my purpose. That same drive I had to go be a career person, both of you, men and women, Lord, help me do that in my family. Help me to love my family. Help me to raise my child up, pour into them things that were never poured into me. Help me give them opportunities, Father, that I never had before, that kind of stuff. Like, you'll find your purpose, and like you have purpose every day to get up and like, I want to provide a good home for my husband. I want to go to work and bust my butt to make sure my wife can do what she does and be industrious. You really start to see your heart change. You really start to love what you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All the complaint goes out the window.
And of course, there will be those people, like you said before, who like, no, I actually really love. That's fine, and do what you feel called to do. We're not saying that every single situation is this conclusion. I think people get that so wrong as they listen to something. Oh, they think that's 100% of the time. Well, I had this one situation. It's not what we're talking about. No, especially in the sense of postpartum. Now we've kind of expanded this out to depression, anxiety, mental issues in general, right? Postpartum especially, like, think about it this way. You've cultivated and nourished a life inside you for 9 months, and then all of a sudden that life is not inside you anymore. It's its own entity. I have to imagine there's a bit of a drop-off a little bit, right? Like, it's kind of like if you're preparing for the Olympics and you're prepping and you're getting ready and your life is all about it and you're getting there, and then the day of truth comes and you run your race, you swim your race, you do your event. Well, what about the next couple of weeks after?
100%.
What do you focus on? What
That's
are you
right.
and not that you're not focusing on the child, but now your life is suddenly different. There's a different path.
Yeah.
And some people, I think, probably struggle to find that redirected purpose.
Yep.
And especially if you compound on, well, I don't really want to go back to work, but I'm supposed to want to go back to work.
Right.
Or I want to raise my kids, but I have these other things that are pulling at me.
Right.
That can cause a lot of stress and anxiety in somebody. And so I would say, just as a, like, here's some hope in all of this, step back and sit with the Lord of, like, Lord, what is best for me?
That's right. Gratefulness.
What do you want for me?
Thank you, Jesus.
Right?
And
yeah.
I will say too, to add, it's a multivariate thing to have depression. I'm not trying to limit it. I'm saying a major part could be
exactly.
This is what we've done with society. And then we say, go back to being a traditional, like
without the training.
Without the training. So then, like, you all know, you get, as kids, when you didn't know how to do something, you were embarrassed. You felt depressed. Like, I'm embarrassed. I don't know how to do that like those guys do. You know, that's what happens.
And the older you get, the more it compounds. So if you're 35 years old and you don't know how to change a tire,
totally,
you're going to go to your buddies and be like, yeah, guys, can you teach me how to change a tire? Because we in our mind are like, all of our buddies are absolutely laughing at us.
Yep.
Now, generally, maybe your buddies will rib you a little bit, but if they're any quality of man, they will show you.
Yep, totally.
But we've lost those skills, right? So women have lost the skills of, as sexist as it sounds, sewing and making food and making meals with love.
100%.
There is such love in all of that. Nourishing the children, raising the children, buying fields and making vineyards and all of that. And men who can actually build his own house.
That's right.
Who can fix the car when the car needs to be fixed? Who can go out and hunt food and bring it back? Who can farm, right? How many of us can actually do all that? Now, you have movements of that. It's awesome when you meet guys who can do that, but they're a fairly rare bird.
100. Most
guys sit at a computer all day. They go to the store to buy the food. They bring the food home, and that's not bad. They're doing what they need to do in that realm, but it's something where learn the skills that resemble tradition, because I think you're going to find you have more self-sufficiency and more value added, because you're going to be like, this is more who I'm meant to be. This is who I'm supposed to be in this world. So, Mass, round her out.
Again, I think he's right. It's all about praying and just saying, Lord, teach me to be grateful where I'm at. And when I can do that, I can find hope again. I can find peace again. And it had to happen it happened to me just recently, man. I'm constantly doing to drop one and just do one full time, like was like a shock to me. I don't have people pulling on me every 15 seconds. I don't have, and I'll say it, like there's like a real weight on you to make sure everybody's doing good and all these other things. It's like, okay, now I can bless them from afar. When they need me, they need me. And I've had many phone calls and talks, but it's like, I don't have that anymore. It's like, what do I do now? Dude, there was a real depression. I told you about it. When I was in Texas in September for 2 weeks, I was like sitting on the chair in the hotel room after I got done preaching. I'm like, what is going on, Lord? Like, what is life, right? Like, I started turning into Socrates. Like, what is life, Lord? Plato came out of me. It's like, I've pondered the ways of life. Like your mind goes into these places of, am I even needed anymore? So it's weird how, and if you sit idle, the enemy will crush you, dude. So then I just started saying, forget this, Lord. I thank you for telling me to do this. Show me what I need to do. And it was like, not like silence. Okay, then if you're not going to tell me anything, I'm just going to do this. And I'm going to be grateful where I'm at. And seriously, before God, as best I can, every situation, tough ones have come up, especially the last month. I'm like, okay, Lord, I can't do it. I literally cannot fix this. You have to fix this. And it's the best place to be because my works aren't determining my worth. My worth is now his. I'm safely trusting in you, Lord. You have to do this now. That is so uncharacteristic of me. I used to pray, God, give me the plan so I can go fix it. Now I can't. He doesn't want me to do that. I'm not lazy. I'm still doing work every day. I'm still doing my, just self-evident stuff. But it's the first time ever, it's like, no, focus on this now. Your family, your wife, your ministry. That's all. Nothing else. And for all you guys who watch the podcast, it's like, man, they should be more popular. We're not doing it for that. We never have. This podcast of ours has never been a selling point for the ministry. It's more for us to just be like, we get our thoughts out. And if you guys want to share it, share it. If you guys want to agree. But back to this, go and pray in your closet and say, Lord, what is it? How do I be grateful now? You put me in this position. You set me here in this position. How do I be grateful so that I don't have to be depressed, that I can honor you in all things? Even if it's hard, I want to honor you. That's what helped me. Dude. This last 3 months. It's just been like, dude, I can't please anybody, dude. Nothing I do makes sense. And it's scary. But I'm not depressed no more. You know what I mean? I just trust him. Lord, you bring the next step. Literally ravens, bro. Out of the woodwork. People like you.
Yeah.
Ravens, bro. Like, God's bringing in things. It's like, okay. I don't know. Okay.
And I know we got to round this out, but as you're talking, it's like, dang, dude, I'm going through the same thing. Because it's like, right now, it's like, Lord, I should be banging my head against walls to get through the brick walls.
I ain't doing it.
And I can't help but get the attraction from the Lord to spend time with my family, to take care of the boys, to do stuff with you guys, to like stuff that is not monetary stuff, but it's like, and that gratitude aspect, like that's something I got to repent of. And yeah, no, thank you, man. you hit something for me, you know.
Even now, Mike's training us every morning, and so like I'm going to pay him as such. He's training me every morning to get rid of my weight, to be healthy. And we've been killing it. Like,
it's been fun, man.
It's been seriously fun to do. The goals we've been able to hit. I mean, I'm back to jogging again, for crying in the mud. I wasn't doing that. But it's like the little things God's having us focus on right now is so important, right? And it's like, one day I'm going to hit them pearly gates. And all those things that I did, could I honestly say, Lord, I did all those things I had my hands on with excellence? Or was it supposed to be the little 5 things, the 5 talents? Not the 20, the 5. Legit. Anyway.
Love you. All right. Love you guys. We'll see y'all later. Bye.